Okay, so want to create a new class. Search tree. Can I create this class? It already exists, so I can't create this class in this package. So I cheat. And then, oops, copy. If I were, I would rename it something else, but so it's a generic, makes everybody happy. Command 1. And then I don't need the extra doohickey, and then I can reformat the code. Oops, wrong one. Okay, so you can do this recursively, or you can do this with a while loop. My brain doesn't work well with loops somehow. I don't know why. I get lost in there and it never ends. So for whatever reason, I find it easier to do it recursively. So private e find e item int index, and then I just say return find item 0. So I'm going to start looking at the root of the tree, and then I'm going to keep going until either I find the item or I find an empty place in the tree. The array has a null there because there's nothing there. Or I go off the end of the array. Because what does that mean?
It's not there.
It's not there, but the child would have been further out. If the child was there, the length of the array would have grown, right? So there's a couple of base cases. So if index is greater than or equal to data, tree data, that means that we have fallen off the end. We looked at a child, but the child was further than, is not in the tree. So what do we return? We're finding, we're not adding. Right, so we don't need to grow the tree. We're trying to find something. So yes, in the insert, we want to make more room for it, but in this case, we're just looking for the thing. So we just return null because it's not in the tree. So we now know that index is within the size of the array. Do we have to worry about negative indexes? Not if I start with 0, and because this method is private, who can call it? Only us. And if we don't hit negative numbers in there, then we don't have to worry about negative numbers. Right? So I don't have to worry about negative numbers because only I can call this method. And I promise not to pass in negative numbers. I promise myself. So if tree data sub index equal null, this is the second base case. I went to the child and there's nothing there. So what does that mean? It's not in the tree. So now we've got to a place where there is something in the tree, and we're looking at it. So we need to do the comparison. Compare item to tree data sub-index. Right? So now, if comp is equal to 0, what does that mean? that's there, so I want to return tree data subindex. Do I want to return item? No, I do not want to return item because I want to return the thing in the tree. I want to return the thing in the tree. Item may be found and they may be equal, but item may not point to the instance that the tree points to. Right? Item can point to something else that is equal to, as in dot equals to the thing in the tree, but they may not refer to the same object. Else if comp is what? Less than 0. So now we want to go left, right? So I return find item. Now what's the left one? 2 times index plus 1. So that's the left child. Then else, it's got to be greater, so I return find item 2 times index plus 2. What happens if I get here? Actually, I don't have to return anything because I can't get here. Can I get here? Can I get to line 41?
Because you exhausted all possibilities.
That's right. It's either 0, it's less than 0, or it's greater than 0. I can't get to line 41, so I don't have to return anything again. If I could get here, what would I want to return? Null, because I didn't find anything. But since I can't get here, it doesn't matter. So, JavaDoc, this is where I love Eclipse. Bing. And bing, and then type. Any questions? If index is out of bounds, yes. If I call for an array size of 3 and I call array sub 4, what happens? Anyway, it throws an array index out of bounds exception. So that doesn't return any. That throws an exception and my method doesn't return. Now, the reason I check for the index first is so that I don't call it out of bounds. Right? So by putting that check, the first if statement, I guarantee that index is in bounds, and plus my contract with myself that I'll never call this method with a negative value. And by the recursion, when I'm doing the recursion, can I ever call it with a negative value? Right? I can't, because 2 times index plus something is negative. It will never be negative unless index itself was negative. And I only call it with 0, so I'm never going to call this with a negative value. So, for the midterm, next week, Monday, actually, sorry.